This key concept in chapter 3, bio 181, is carbohydrates, C2HON, function in energy storage, glucose and starch, and structural support, cellulose and chitin. The monomers are called monosaccharides and the polymers are called polysaccharides. So let's look through this. So the ratio of carbon to hydrogen is we've got one carbon, we've got two hydrogen, which is represented with this two, we've got one oxygen. So again, if you don't see the subscript, we're going to assume that's O. So you can represent this as CH2O. You take that subunit and you repeat it n times. So n, say n equals 3, then you would have CH2O3, which is really the smallest unit of a carbohydrate. And you would just distribute this 3 to each atom, and you have C3H6O3 as an example of a simple carbohydrate. All right. Okay, monosaccharides are the smallest unit, just one monomer, and drop my eraser. So monosaccharide, the smallest unit, we've got 3 carbons. You can see over here, I'm circling those. And for each carbon, there's one carbon, okay? You have a total of 2 hydrogens. Here's one, here's another one, and here's an oxygen. So that's that CH2O n times, right? So there's one, then we've got this carbon here, the second carbon, we've got 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. The third carbon, we've got 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. So again, this would be C3H6O2. You could also have, instead of 3 carbons, 6 carbons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that case, we would have CH2O 6 times. This is the most common form that we're going to be dealing with in this class. The C multiplies N, so C6H12O6. And this is the formula for the molecular formula for glucose, which is the most common sugar in the human body. OSD on the end, that suffix is going to indicate to you that it's probably a sugar. So that's a key if you're looking at multiple choice questions. OSD on the end, good indication that it's going to be a sugar, which is a simple carbohydrate. Now, you could have a single one of those, which is called a monosaccharide. You could also have 2 of them. Let's see. Oh, this one, okay. So I'm going to focus on the disaccharide here. So disaccharide this means 2. And then this is going to be our sweet or sugar. So we've got 2 sugars. Okay? And so basically, if you have, one monosaccharide here and you link it to another monosaccharide, then you have a disaccharide. So this could be glucose, and this could be another molecule called fructose. Sorry, this would be another one called, fructose. So if this is fructose, then this combination together is called sucrose, which is, you may have heard of this. This is the most common type of sugar in plant that it moves around in a disaccharide when they're transporting it. OSD on the end, sucrose. This bond here, straight line, can you remember what it is? Straight line, what type of bond? If you thought or said covalent, then you are correct, okay? And can you remember covalent bonds, what do? They share electrons. So electrons are going back and forth. All right, the next type of carbohydrate is a polysaccharide. Poly means many. And so we've got multiple monosaccharides put together. This is our polymer. So I've got lots and lots of these monosaccharides together with a covalent bond. You might have thousands of these, right? You actually have thousands of monomers put together. And then each of these would be a covalent bond. And these might all be, say, glucose. So if you have a whole bunch of glucose molecules put together again and again and again, then you have potential for the polysaccharide to make a molecule called starch. Say starch, you've probably heard of it. It's the main component in bread and pasta. Plants make it to store energy. So this is energy storage. Right? In our body and animals, we're going to store all of these in a glucose. Still, they're bonded a little bit differently in a molecule called glycogen. And we store that in our muscles and in our liver. So again, this is energy storage again. And this is going to be in animals, whereas starch is going to be in plants. All right, the last topic here is an isomer. And this is just an example I'm going to do for sugar, but it could be for other molecules as well. So a structural isomer, we have this, if it's a structural isomer, it's the same molecular formula. So that means it's the same number of atoms. So in this case, all of these three molecules have the formula C6, 6 carbons, H12, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. And however, they are bonded differently. So this is a structural isomer. So glucose, galactose, and fructose all have the same formula, but if you look at where the double bond is, so it's at the end here in glucose, C double bond O, whereas over here in fructose, it's going to be on the second carbon. So if we number the carbons from the top to the bottom, the first carbon, second carbon, third carbon, fourth carbon, fifth carbon, sixth carbon. So over here in glucose, the first carbon is where we have the double bond to the oxygen. Over here in fructose, we have the double bond to the oxygen here. The other difference between galactose, can you spot it? Between galactose and glucose, what's the difference? Can you find it? All right, if you are targeting this area, so this bond over here, the OH is actually on the right side. It's on the same side as the double bond O. Whereas over here in galactose, the OH or the hydroxyl group is on the opposite side as the double bond O. So physically, it's going to look different and it's going to change the way it interacts with other molecules. All right, and that is it for this video.